Well, you were the head of the EU Observer Mission in Zimbabwe for the 2000 legislative elections. What has changed since then to allow the MDC to achieve a victory?
Well, actually, I was there in 2000 for like you said, the elections, and then also 2002 for the presidential elections. Mm-hmm. And in 2000, the presence of international observers was vital, because there was a lot of intimidation, and people were told if you vote for the opposition, the ballots will be marked, so there will be consequences. But we were there in large numbers, the EU mission. There were also other international observer missions, and it helped to create an atmosphere where people actually dared to vote. They came out in great numbers. For the first time, the opposition got about 1/3 of the votes, from having had a landslide in previous elections for the president's party. So that was very important to have international observers. And we were out there covering about 70% of all the polling stations in connection, in liaison with the national observers. So we covered the ground pretty well. I think that the lesson for the regime was then that it was bad to have international observers from Europe or elsewhere. So when we came back in 2002, when it was presidential elections, and then of course much more sensitive for President Mugabe, then we were not welcome. There is an accord between the EU and all the countries who collaborate with the EU for corporate electoral aid and so on, which says that you should allow election observation and have good governance as well. So they couldn't refuse, but they didn't welcome us. So we came back in 2002, and then they made things impossible for us. We couldn't work. And finally they kicked me out after a week and a half. And so that was that. What we see today is that there is a repetition of the same climate of intimidation before the elections, and we don't know after. So what I think is important, that's the lesson which I brought to the EU afterwards, in which they are applying to all electoral missions now, is that an electoral observation mission should not only be there a couple of days during election. They should be there at least 1 or 2 weeks before to see how the atmosphere is in the country at large. And then to be there during election day. Then people, it's usually okay, and they want to show the picture that everything's okay on election day. But you should also stay after another week to see how the election result is handled. This time, we were not allowed in this year from Europe, and only African observation missions. And we also understand that there was intimidation on election day itself by the presence of the police, who were allowed to enter the polling stations, which they are refused to normally, but they were supposedly there to keep the order. But of course, that is a heavy, heavy influence of intimidation. So there is the difference. And I must say that I'm impressed by the people coming out voting still, and also that the opposition dare to show in the streets before the election that they were going to vote and that they belonged to the opposition. So that the urge for change was very strong.
Zimbabwe's economy has been suffering serious problems for some time now. What do you think can be done to stabilize the economic situation there?
Good governance. And I think that Zimbabwe's economy generally is a strong one. It used to be very strong, and the country was like a center of economic strength in the region. So together with South Africa, they are about the strongest. So it's actually abuse of power and also of people's having no confidence in the government, and so which has changed the situation.
Okay. And obviously Robert Mugabe's regime has been in power for quite some years now. Do you think for the sake of stability there should be a transition period with the MDC and ZANU-PF sharing power for a time?
This is up to the voters. I mean, if you have elections, it is because the people want to express themselves in freedom. And the secrecy of the ballot is the power of the people. So they should actually decide that. And it should not be kind of a after voting arrangement or deal when the losing side says, well, we will keep the power and we will fight to keep the power unless we make a deal. This is election day. There the people is sovereign and the people's vote should decide.
Okay.